Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And I have another fantastic guest with me today. I don't know how I keep finding these wonderful people. Her name is Noemi Beres, and she is an entrepreneur and co-owner of Podcast Connections. Oh, that could be how I'm finding all these great people. It is a media company which connects podcast hosts to potential guests to share their stories and enrich their lives through personal and meaningful connections. She is also the co-host of the Sacred Divine podcast, a show dedicated to self-discovery, spirituality, and self-growth. Noemi has her own journey of grief, trauma, and self-healing, becoming a self-taught artist while discovering how her art became a source of solace, healing, and transformation. Noemi, so happy to have you on the show today. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Sherry. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is not the first time we have spoken, just so the listeners know that. We've actually had some conversations before, and Noemi is just a fascinating woman with an incredible story and such a kind heart and desire to really help people.
Thank you. You're so nice.
Well, not always. It depends on the day. So tell us how you got interested in doing the podcast connection and starting this company. How did that come about?
That was an completely and utterly accidental business decision, as it always when you are an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur in 2007, so it goes way back. I never really wanted to have a boss. So after 3 years of working for an international company back in Ireland, we lived there for 7 years. Made up my mind and I decided like, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I told my husband and he was a bit surprised, but he knew that I'm not going to stay, I wasn't going to stay that place. So I became an entrepreneur and we started our first business, which was an online travel related business. And I was doing social media marketing, content creation, blogging, travel writing, you name it. So wearing too many hats as an entrepreneur, we always do. So, and it was great and I enjoyed it, but COVID hit, the pandemic, appeared out of the blue and everything that was travel related just went up in the smoke. And that was, our business basically just stopped from one day to another. Everybody just canceled everything. So, so we had to pivot and that was the pivot. Luckily, we had a mentor and a gentleman from Ireland who advised us to start something in the podcasting world because the podcasting business was just booming back in 2020, especially when COVID started. Everybody, they didn't have a podcast. They started a podcast and it didn't matter because everybody had something to say. So it was, I think it's a wise decision to start something in this world. And that was it. So 2020, from one day to another, we created a website and we just, okay, let's do this. And we learn as we go. There weren't any plans written in stone or anything like that. But obviously I have like strong communication skills. I'm a linguist by trade. So we just did it. We just, took a plunge into this big ocean of podcasting.
And so basically you learned as you went because you didn't know anything.
No, I didn't know anything about it. So when my husband told me, so we're starting a podcast booking agency because he did a course on, like it was a kind of low investment program that our mentor friend offered. It's like, okay, let's do it. And we did it. And I haven't even listened to any podcast before 2020. I mean, in Europe, it's still... Well, it's really interesting because you are so far ahead of us when it comes to podcasting and podcasts. And I'm trying to explain to my friend what I'm doing. They're still not getting. So they know there's something with podcasts, but they have no clue. I don't know many people who actually listen to podcasts, which is so interesting. So there's, I think there's a bigger audience in the US. So that's how we started. And first we worked solely with female entrepreneurs, female e-commerce entrepreneurs from the US. So basically we reached out to them and on LinkedIn or emails. And that's how we started to to start to work with our very first clients. And obviously we expanded and we work with different niches and male, female entrepreneurs. So yeah, it's a very, very exciting journey. And this is our 4th year in the business, in the podcasting business. And we reached 6-figure this year in April, I think. And yeah, it was a hard and very interesting journey.
A tedious journey, but congratulations. That's just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I have to pivot here and ask you, because of course, you're doing this, connecting guests and hosts together. And you connected me with a wonderful, wonderful host who now I consider my friend. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
But, along the way, I'm just really curious, there had to have been a lot of surprises along the way as you were doing this.
If you're an entrepreneur, you always have surprises. I mean, in the past, or since 2007, 17 years, I always have surprises. So being an entrepreneur it's not an easy ride. I mean, we always have ups and downs, ebb and flow. Of course, we had some strange things happening, and it's always hard to get those, very first clients. I mean, they don't know you. It's really hard to trust you because who you are in this world. The competition is there. I'm not saying we have a huge competition. We have, but I mean, it's not as bad as in the coaching world. I have to emphasize that. So, but yeah, it was really hard to organize everything and just to get people on board and make them trust you, with their investment and what am I giving to them, and yeah, just dealing with the whole this incredible journey was very, very challenging for sure.
Well, especially I think that after or during COVID, there was a lot of there was a lot of scamming going on, and there was a lot of mistrust. I think that there still is a healthy amount, and it's, healthy amount is really a good thing, to be a little cautious. So just trying to find, as you said, your niche, and trying to convince people that you were, honest and reliable, I would imagine would be very difficult.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right, Cheryl. Yeah, people were just more conscious how they spend their money, and I think they're even more conscious now. In the world economy is in a different state, so everybody's very careful with their money. So you really have to provide service for them that actually worth their money. But luckily, I mean, we do that. So it's great to have these amazing business relationships.
Well, and I will just reiterate that you have already connected me with some fantastic guests, wonderful people. So thank you for that. I just kind of wanted to reiterate that. But now, if somebody is listening to the show right now and they're thinking, I've always wanted to get on a podcast or start a podcast, and what would you suggest or recommend to somebody who's sitting there thinking, I want to be a podcast guest, which I think is probably the best way to go, rather than starting as a host, because that's a whole lot of work. But there still is a certain amount of work that goes into being a guest, and especially doing research, the etiquette. So if you could just kind of guide us through that process, so somebody who's listening to this could say, okay, now I have an idea of what to do and how to do it.
Yes, of course. There are a few steps to that this whole, journey involves. I mean, first of all, as you mentioned, Cheryl, research, really important. You really have to find your niche. You really have to find your space. And the podcast that actually your potential clients can listen to, your tribe. So you have to dig deep into that niche and find them. And once you found that niche, after you really have to prepare yourself and get a bio ready, a podcast guesting one sheet ready, a call to action ready. So it's really important to be clear about these things, because these are really important if you want to pitch yourself to podcast hosts. And also, you have to have those topics and talking points, because these help the host to create the perfect show for you. It's so much easier for them once you are prepared. And and obviously you have to pitch yourself, and your pitch needs to stand out, because nowadays podcast hosts, they get a lot of emails with potential guests, and
Yes, they do.
you really yes they do. You really have to stand out of the crowd and even tell them that you took your time, took your effort, and you listened to a few episodes. I mean, it means a lot to a host. Or even you left a review on Apple Podcasts. I mean, that's always a key. And it's a very neat thing to do before you get on a show. And you can share that with the host, because once they know you, they like you, they trust you, it's so much easier to have you as a guest. So I think it's really important to build some kind of relationship before the actual show. And once you're on the show, be engaging, be friendly, be genuine, be open and vulnerable, because this is the way how you connect with people, and the way you share your story. The more open, the more vulnerable you are, people will align with your message, and you're just one of them, and they even trust you with their money, and they trust you with they happy to hire you maybe after the show if they listen to it. It happened to me as well when I did podcast guesting. So because they trust you, they know a little bit about you before they start business with you, because they just type your name into Google and you pop up everywhere. So obviously you have some kind of like brand and authority in that niche, and that's really, really important. And of course, there are other, things when you are on a podcast: be punctual, be respectful, and also don't treat a podcast as an advertisement, because this is not for you. You are for the host, and you are for the host audience. And it's very important to keep that in mind, not just treat it as a platform to promote your new book or new coaching service or something that you are interested in. You always have the opportunity to do that, usually at the end of the show, but don't treat it as just an ad for your business. And of course, once you have finished the episode, the episode is live, you can always promote it. And it's really important to tag the host on different social media platforms, or even just right after the show, maybe next day, just to send a thank you note and appreciate the host's effort, energy, time, money. Because I know a lot of hosts, there are about 500-ish hosts in our network right now, and they work a lot, and they spend so much time, energy, and money just to create one single episode. So I think they at least worth a review and a thank you note.
Yeah, that kind of that's always so appreciated. I mean, I usually get such lovely feedback from my guests, and I just always appreciate it, because it is a lot of hard work. It is a
Yes.
lot of effort, like I said, a lot of time, a lot of money invested. But on the other hand, the flip side, it is so incredibly rewarding, because I have met so many amazing people. I think that's the big, deep, dark secret of podcasting that we don't talk about a lot. I think it's the best way to network on the planet. I mean, I've done
Yes.
networking events, I've done, groups, I've done all kind of things. But when through podcasting, I have met so many people, and when I am a guest on somebody else's show, right away my online book sales get a bump. My podcast listening audience goes up. So it's just really an amazing way to connect with people all over the world. Now, I want to go back when you're talking about finding the match and doing the research, because getting on a show that is in alignment with what your message is and what the message of the podcast host is, you don't want to get on the wrong show. So can you
Yes.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is just so important to find the right podcast for you. There are 3.5 million podcasts out there, so there are a lot of them. But not every podcast is for you. You really have to be careful what kind of shows you're getting on, because the content you create, it's evergreen. It probably will stay there forever. And even if you change business or you do something else, people can still find you. So just be careful what kind of podcast you give your name to. And be conscious with that when you look out for podcasts. And I'm not saying you have to be on the top whatever podcast in the world, like top, 0.5% podcast, because it's really hard to get on those shows. But just be careful. And that's why it's advisable just to listen to a few episodes and see what kind of guest the host had, on the show. I think that it's really important to do a bit of digging, a bit of research about the host, about the podcast.
So I have to say this because it's kind of a funny thing, but I was shocked at the time. I had a delightful young man on my show, and he was went into life coaching. He was a former medical person and decided to go into life coaching. So if you're going to be a guest on the show, you might want to check with the host if foul language is acceptable. Because my show is very clean. I like to think that moms could listen to the show in the car on their phone with kids in the car and not hear anything awful. I had this gentleman, and like I said, he was a lovely young man. He dropped the F-bomb 33 times in like a 40-minute long episode. And apparently he wasn't reading the room because I have a very expressive face, and I was like this the whole time, every time he said it. And all I could think of is, I can't use this episode. And then I thought, I'm just going to release it the way it is. And no, I couldn't do that. So I went through and I had to cut out every single curse word.
Gosh.
It took me a very long time, but I did manage to clean it up. And I thought, I just wanted to call him or, send him an email and say, you might want to reconsider this. So for those of you who are going to be on a show, if, before that you even start recording and you like to use salty language, you might want to run it by the host first to see if that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea to do. And also I came across a couple of podcasts when the hosts were using, curse words. So, and I know that most of my clients are not comfortable with that. So, and I can't even send them to those shows because you have to respect that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. I was a guest on another show that was really a fun show. The guy was a dog trainer who had an amazing backstory, and he was so much fun to talk to. So I had him on my show, and then he had me on his, and his goal was to try and get me to cuss. And I'm like, okay, game on, go ahead, go ahead and try and see what happens. And he never did get me to say a bad word. So I was very proud of that. I thought it's not going to happen. So yes, be very careful whose show you go on, especially do want to reiterate once the episode does go live. If you've been that guest, you want to make sure you promote the heck out of that and do tag the host because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation for everyone. I mean, content is king. And once you tag the host, you will connect with the host's audience or the host followers on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, and vice versa. It's just so important to tag each other, and not just only once, because most of the hosts will allow you to use the MP4, file or MP3 file for the recording. And if that's okay, and if you got the permission, you can always, repurpose the content, create audiograms, videograms, quotes, JPEGs, anything that you can share on social media. And that can be just so crucial to promote the episode, the host, and of course yourself too.
The other thing I do is anytime I'm a guest on a show, I take the link and I put it on my website. So I have a whole media page, and I was cleaning it up yesterday because some of the shows are obsolete or they've gone, by the wayside. And so some of the links were old. But as I was looking, it was like, wow, I've been on 45 shows in the past several years. I mean, that seems like a lot, especially since I'm doing my own show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a brilliant idea to have a podcast or, media page so you can include all your podcast appearances. And I just have another suggestion to the audience. So if you, for example, listen to Spotify, if you're on YouTube, you can always create a public list, a playlist on Spotify from your podcast appearances, and you can put them in order, and then that's amazing. So people can you can share that link with anyone, and people can just listen to all of your interviews if they are available on Spotify. And the same thing applies to YouTube. So you go on YouTube, you create a public playlist, And you can just add all those interviews that you were a guest on, and were actually published on YouTube. So it's just so easy, and you can share the content with anyone, everyone. Yeah.
See, I didn't know you could do that on YouTube. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. You just if the show is there and if the episode is there, you just add it to a list, and then people can just see it's like, these are the shows I was a guest on. You can have a look at it.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay,
it's
so
my
now
pleasure.
let's move on from the podcasting. And to speaking of YouTube, if you're listening or watching this on YouTube, you obviously see the artwork behind Noemi right now. Such beautiful work. Tell us how you got interested in art. And you said you are a self-taught artist. So talk
Yes.
about that. Oh, before we do, I'm sorry, I hate to do this to you, but before we go to your art, tell us about your podcast, the one that you started with Keith.
Oh yeah, we just started our podcast. It's on episode 4 right now at the time of the recording, and it goes strong. So we will record more. And it's a podcast about self-care. It's about spirituality and personal growth. And it's mostly for women, but of course men can listen to it too. It's the sacred divine. And we are really excited about the whole project. And this is just a part of our coaching program and a retreat program that will follow.
Well, it's beautiful. I saw it. I was surprised. I didn't know that this was coming. And I think there was something in your bio, and I thought, let me click on this and see what this is. And it was like, and I saw the two of you, and like I made a
Yeah.
comment, I liked, I subscribed, and I said, two of my favorite people. So I'm really excited about your show. And, please check this out. It's just absolutely amazing. And both Keith and Noemi are amazing people, very heartfelt, very sincere, and that totally comes through in the show. So just want you
Thank
to
you
know
so
that.
much for your support and your subscribe as well.
Oh, trust me, I know what it's like. Okay, so now back to the art.
Yeah. Oh yes, the art. I was kind of an artistic type of kid since I was born. No one wasn't I born, but maybe age 5, 6, I loved drawing, painting, jewelry making. Like everything excited me. I loved going to museums with my parents. They took me to different countries, and we always visited museums. Then later on, I traveled a lot and visited the biggest museums in Europe. So I love art, watching art, making art, and the whole collage, it actually making, because I'm a mixed media collage artist, and that goes back not probably, but I knew exactly when I started it. It goes back for the time when I was expecting my son, and that was 12 years ago. And I was just sitting there and I started to make a collage just out of the blue. And I was just so interested in it. And I love the medium. I love using glue and paper, and it was amazing. And that was just the beginning, because I gave birth to my son, and then we moved to Cyprus. And there's a big, I would say, like an artist community here. So I joined it, and I had a few group exhibitions with other artists locally, also one in Italy. And then I had some art installations in town. When our town, Paphos, we live very close to that town, and it was the European Capital of Culture in 2017. I was part of the whole movement and everything that happened here in 2017. So it was really, really exciting. And I was just proud to be a collage artist, and because there weren't many here in Cyprus, so it was kind of unique. But then with COVID, like everything else stopped. And so I had kind of a rough year in 2019, because my dad passed away because of cancer, and my grandma passed away of an accident, my father's mother. And that was in 6 months' time. I lost half of my family because I'm an only child. So it's only my mom's left. And so it was a lot. And then 2020 arrived, and then I lost the business too.
Yeah.
So it was a lot going on. So somehow I just went back to art, and I started to create these unique hand-sewn collages on canvas, which they really, it's an homage basically to my identity. I'm Hungarian. I'm from Central Europe, from Hungary. And I really love folk art and old vintage photos, vintage postcards, textiles, lace. So I incorporate everything on these canvases and I sew them together because they work so much better than a glue. Glue doesn't work in Cyprus because it's a Mediterranean country and everything evaporates. So I thought it's like, okay, let's just sew it together. And so I sewing my memories and my family's memories together.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay, so for the listeners, if you are listening to the audio but not watching the video, do go to YouTube and check it out because I'm especially looking at right above your left shoulder. That is so beautiful. It to me it looks like so Eastern European. It looks like something my
Yes.
grandmother would have done
Yeah.
with the flowers and the lace and it just, brings me back. And now I'm looking over my computer to the wall in front of me where I have a doily that my grandmother made when she was probably somewhere between 14, 15, Troussier.
Yeah.
And it was in a pile of stuff that was going to be thrown away after she passed away. And when I found this, it was like, oh my God, there's no way. And I found a lot of other stuff too. And I just took it and, took it back here to my home in Colorado. So I still have a lot of this stuff so I can give it to my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
But this one is so incredible. It's like got tatting around this piece of lace. And then
Yeah.
it's got all of this incredible fine needlework or needlepoint
Mhm.
that I had this thing, I have it mounted. I may have had it framed. And it's
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. And every time I look at it, it makes me smile. And I think it's so important to be able to preserve our
Yeah.
memories and, to be able to either pass them on to the next generation or to preserve them
Mm.
for people who might want them someday.
They are so precious, absolutely, especially it comes from your family, from your grandparents. It's just
Mhm.
amazing. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm actually doing a handwritten collage. I'm writing a book about my family. It's when, it's
I
in the
love it.
make, it's in the works. I'm still working on it. I've got two books I'm currently working on. And, every now and again, I just say, I can't do this anymore. And I pick up my knitting. And so that kind of
Yes.
clears my
Yeah.
head. And that brings me back to when you were talking about joining that artist group,
Yeah.
the importance of community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Although I'm kind of a lone wolf when it comes to art, I love art is very therapeutic for me. It's a form of meditation. So when I do art, I'm not in a community. So I really like to focus on it's kind of my self-care practice, we can call it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's really important. But of course, it can be an amazing opportunity to connect with other people and
Mm-hmm.
join an artist community because it's amazing when our different artists together. I remember that I was invited to an artist gathering, and it was in Bulgaria and in Europe. And there were different artists from different parts of Europe, and that was amazing. That energy, and I just really found my tribe, and I just didn't want to leave. We spent like one amazing week together, and we had an art installation by the end of the week, and they were from Bulgaria, from Ireland, from Cyprus, from Greece, from different
Wow.
countries all over Europe. And the energy, the artistic vibe were just so, so, so strong. And I just couldn't believe it that like after a week, I felt like, oh my God, they are my brothers and sisters from another mother. So it was a unique experience. So yeah, if you can join an artist community or an art community or just knit together or crochet together or
Mm-hmm.
anything, just do it together with other people, they did in the old days, and they created amazing things together. Like, I'm from Hungary, and I remember my grandma told me that they got together winter time, they were singing and they were sewing together, and they were just together and enjoying just singing, dancing, and that was so amazing and so refreshing, and the group spirit, the community vibe.
Mm-hmm. Well, my father actually grew up on a small farm, family farm in
Mm.
Eastern Europe, in Czechoslovakia. And so there was, entertainment was,
Yeah.
taking care of the farm and, sitting around the fire and telling stories and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, community, it's really necessary. And I think that's one
Yeah.
of the things with the pandemic that really really messed a lot of people up. I mean, to
Mm.
have that sense of community taken away from you and
Yeah,
told that no, 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 you can't even, talk to somebody face to face in person because one of you was going to infect and kill the other, and
yeah.
we're social beings and we need that interaction. We need each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also joined a drumming circle. Uh, I love drumming, and I have a djembe drum, a frame drum, a handpan, a tongue drum. So I love drumming, and it's kind of my passion project. And I was lucky because there was this lady in Cyprus, and she organizes these drum circles. So you join them, and you just basically drum together for the sake of drumming, and that's another great stress release. And even it helps to strengthen your immune system because you're getting all those negative vibes out of your body, and you can just drum away. And you don't have to be a professional artist to do that. Anybody can drum on a djembe drum. It's just so easy. You just have to do it basically and start it.
Well, I have to say, as a martial artist, there is something very therapeutic about being able to hit something and get away with it. So, yeah,
Yes, that's true.
that immune system just kicks in, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, do you coach people at all with art or artwork, or it's just something you do for yourself? Do you ever, like help guide
Yeah.
somebody else through the process to get started?
I mean, the coaching program part actually will be part of the Sacred Divine. So that's
Oh,
where actually I'm going to do that part about the art part, like how to make a collage or how to make a gratitude tree or an
oh,
art
nice.
journal, and also drumming. That's really
Mm,
important. I don't do coaching per se right now. What I do, I get on podcasts. Like that's why I'm here as well. And I share with people how you can cope and how with the help of art and how it
mm-hmm,
can heal you from certain traumas and anxiety
mm-hmm,
and grief, and it's just an amazing tool. So I'm just spreading the news, spreading the word about it, and if I can help only one person,
mm-hmm,
that's totally worth it to me, because it's just so important to people know that you are not alone. Are you? There are so many people out there who have the same problem, and obviously, this is not a cure for illness or anything like
mm-hmm,
that, but it's a safe space. And no
mm-hmm,
matter how disturbing your art, you don't have to show it to anyone. You can just
mm-hmm.
keep it in a safe place. But all those negative vibes and energy is getting out of your body instead of swiping under the carpet. And that's just so important. And that's the whole point. So it's kind of, but this is my quest that
Mm-hmm.
I'm just spreading the word online and getting on these shows and sharing my previous experience with grief and
Mm-hmm.
anxiety and to help them.
Mm-hmm. Well, both of my mom and dad were sick at the same time and actually passed away just 19 days apart. And this was back in 2010. And I was knitting so much I thought I was going to have to build a new room in my house for all the knitting and all the projects that I created. But it was really a way to be able to have something else to focus on, to be able to
Yeah.
calm my nervous system so I wouldn't get, so anxious that it would impact them. I mean, my whole um, my personal responsibility, in my opinion, was to be able to make them as comfortable as possible, to take away stress, to be able to entertain them, and it really helped tremendously.
Yes, I agree so much with that. It's like you distance and detach yourself from the whole
Mm-hmm.
world, and you have the ability to create something nice, something
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, and you can absolutely lose yourself in it, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
so therapeutic. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a form of meditation because you don't
Mm-hmm.
not only you don't have to sit in lotus position and meditate for an hour, but you
Mm-hmm.
can do so many things. You can drum, you can dance, you can sing, you can knit. It's
Mm-hmm.
a form of meditation, and
Mm-hmm.
it helps for
I
sure.
call it meditation through movement.
Yes,
Because
yes.
that's, to me, I have got to be
Mm.
doing something physical. I mean, and not like climbing mountains or anything, but that
Yeah.
physicality of being able to move a little bit really helps me. It's really funny. I've been cleaning out the girl cave. My husband and I are planning a big move to a new state in the near future. So I've been cleaning out a lot of stuff and finding things that are really surprising me. I found one notebook that I wrote couple of poems they just like spit out of me out of nowhere. And it was after I was experiencing a really bad trauma and I was really having a lot of difficulty. And this was a long time ago. It was like 2000 is when this happened. And I
Mm.
found all of these documents and these poems, and it was like, wow. I had forgotten all about it. And then I realized, I was looking over them and how difficult a time that really was, and how much being able to write in that way really made a big difference.
Mm. Absolutely. And writing or journaling is
Hmm.
also very therapeutic. And I know you don't have to be an artist in order to do that, but I do art journaling as well. So you
Oh.
have basically a journal and you can use different pictures, different quotes from
Hmm.
famous people or the ones
Hmm.
you follow or like. And you can draw, you can write anything in it, affirmation, positivity, about your life experiences.
Hmm.
It's basically a journaling, but you can use pictures, you can use different medium in order
Hmm.
to express yourself, and it's just
Hmm.
beautiful.
And for myself, from my own perspective, just the tactile sensation of touching the yarn
Yes.
or touching
Mm.
fabric is just, yeah, I have a really good friend who has really bad anxiety, and she also loves the color pink. It's her favorite color. And I was actually at an arts and craft fair this past weekend promoting my books and my hand knitted
Yeah.
garments. And there was a table next to me, and they had alpaca blankets and stuff.
Oh.
And I just looked, and there was this beautiful, looked like a shawl or a throw, beautiful bright pink, and I was, drawn to it, and I touched it, and it was so, so soft. And that's another thing that my friend really likes is, the tactile sense and feeling soft things. So I bought that on the spot for her. So I can't wait to give it to her for Christmas, because I think that that would just, the color, the texture, the sensation, it's like it wakes up so many of your senses and just
Yes.
gives you that feeling of well-being.
Yeah, smell, touch, I mean, hearing and everything. It's just so amazing. And they can really help you to get into a better mood. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just so fantastic. Even colors, like I did a course on color therapy, and it's just amazing. Like even if you just change around a few things in your house and use different colors and
Hmm.
different accessories in like
Hmm.
in green or yellow, or it just makes your life so much better and it really improves your life. Yeah.
Well, it wakes up your nervous system.
Yeah.
It accesses more, neural pathways in your brain, and that's always a good thing.
Mm. Very true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so Naomi, where can people find you? How can they get a hold of you? I'm going to ask you to share the links. I mean, I already have the links in the show notes
Right.
already, and they will be there forever and ever. But I really like for the guest to be able to articulate it because it makes it so much more personal.
Yeah, so you can find me, and if you're interested in podcast guesting, you can find us on Podcast Connections, plural.co. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm very active. So if you just type my name in, Noemi Beres, you will find me. I'm also on Instagram. It's more about my art and about my personal life and what
Hmm.
inspires me in life. And that's also Noemi Beres. So you will find me there.
Hmm. Excellent. Well, is there anything else you would like to leave? Oh, tell us the link to the YouTube, the podcast.
That's a good question.
Okay. Okay, so just go to I will
It's the
look that up.
Secret Divine, that's for
Uh-huh.
sure. We just started it, but I'm going to just check that for you. So
Okay.
I'm really bad. I'm not so familiar with the link there. So
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you just launched it, so.
Yeah, basically we just launched it. Yeah, and so it's basically the Sacred Divine. If you are on YouTube, you just go to the Sacred Divine dash TSD and we'll be there. It's our space.
Excellent. Okay, is there anything final pearls of wisdom or anything you'd like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Yes, I would love to. So many people ask me about that. I'm not an artist and I can do art. I can dance, I can draw, I can do anything. I'm not a creative type. And I think that there's creativity in everyone. And you don't have to be an artist to do art, but art will help you to heal and recover from so many things. And if you just try out, just once. I mean, I remember that my son, he was about 3, 4 year old, and he made a collage. He could use, a pair of scissors, glue, and magazines, and cut out images from there. So just do it. I mean, you just have to start doing it and just keep repeating it and being consistent and persistent with it. And it's better than medicine. It's better than anything else. You just have to try it once, and then you will be addicted in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I would add, don't judge yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Naomi, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you are doing. Love your podcast, love your company, and thank you for connecting me with some fantastic people. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening, and do share this episode with everyone you know, especially if you know somebody or you yourself might be dealing with a lot of anxiety and can't find your way around it. Oh, just pick up some fabric, pick up a ball of yarn, maybe start doing some creative things like we did when we were kids. No judgment, just have a pair of scissors, some paper, crayons, whatever, because it really does make a difference in our health and well-being. And remember, don't judge yourself, just create. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.